So this is our spherical mesh. I've got a bunch of controls here, as you can see, the formation. I've got the vertex color control as well, so you can see our grid is actually it's got a lot more highlights. I'm gonna change that maybe to higher value like 5, and we've got like a very thin lines. Also we're gonna have the world position offset, so we can destroy our shield if we want to. Something like this. Okay, so I hope you're gonna enjoy this one. Let's hop into Houdini and let's create our mesh. Also, I want to show you that I've got a couple meshes. So that's the number 1, that's number 2. It's got a lot less polygons, probably for some stylized project maybe. Then we got slightly denser, and number 4, it's a very dense mesh in case we need a lot more details. And I'm just exporting those with slider in Houdini, and we're just gonna create this in this video. So I've got this sphere in Houdini now. That's the graph. As you can see, it's not too complicated. I'm gonna go back, disable it, and start from scratch. So geometry node, shield, space, YouTube, and I'm gonna get sphere. I'm gonna turn that into a polygon sphere, get the frequency up to 5, and with this slider we'll be actually controlling the resolution of our sphere later on. I'm not gonna change anything else here for now, and I'm gonna get divide next. To turn that into polygonal shape, I'm gonna 0 those two, or you can just disable it and enable that tick box, and it's gonna do just that. I'm gonna actually go with the smooth polygons, and now we've got some vertices stacked on top of each other. So if you go into info, you can see we've got 6,000 polygons. It doesn't look, sorry, 6,000 vertices, but to me it doesn't look like 6,000. So I'm just gonna go with fuse and fuse those double or triple vertices together, and now we've got only 1.5 thousand. So it doesn't create a perfect hexagonal sphere. As you can see here, for example, we've got a 5-sided polygon here as well. So I'm sure there is an online solution to this. However, I think it's just very difficult to spot it in the game engine unless you really look for it. So I'm just gonna go with this simple solution. Next, I'm gonna use a point split. And to test if we actually did split our faces, I'm gonna use exploded view. So it seems like it's working. I'm gonna keep it just for a preview in case I wanna come back to it later on. Next, I'm gonna go for poly extrude, because for this shield I actually wanna use vertex color on the edges, so I don't have to use the texture. It's gonna probably double or triple our poly count, but I'm not too bothered about the poly count, to be completely honest with you, because that shield is gonna have maybe 6,000 or 7,000, and I don't think it's that much unless you're working with a mobile game. But I think even with the mobile game you probably could allow yourself to use this. If you really have to, you can just export it as is for a test to see if it gives you what you want in terms of your effect, and then come back and come up with a solution that's going to be a lot more performance friendly. So I'm going to go with the poly extrude, and I'm going to create inset, something like this. So maybe 0.015. Next, I'm going to create a group. Group type will be edges. Going to disable base group, go to edges and select unsharpen edges. As you can see, it's going to select all those edges that's going to be as a separation edges. Okay, I'm going to call this one here as well. Next, you can just add color node. I'm gonna select black color And for the group, I'm gonna pick the one we've just created. And as you can see, we've got a vertex color on those, and we can use it for our grid highlight if we wanted to. Okay, next, probably the most important bit is the UV project, because we need our UVs to be made in a certain way for the world position offset to work. So I'm gonna go to my UV viewport next here. And for the projection, I'm actually gonna use polar maybe. I'm gonna keep the default settings. Maybe I could just get slightly higher value for the pole radius. And this is what we're gonna get. And I'm gonna use smooth as well, actually UV smooth node. In here, group boundary, I'm gonna set it to none. Filter to 1. And in here, I'm gonna put some very high value. So I've tested a couple of those. I started with maybe 500 and I thought it's gonna work. However, when I was doing world position offset, there was a slight issue with that. So I just came back here and put 5,000. And with the 5,000, it actually worked as I wanted to. Right, so this will be our UV0. Next, I'm gonna use another UV channel. So I'm gonna use another UV project. All you could do, you can just select this one, copy, paste. But I'm gonna change the UV attribute to UV1. And I'm gonna have the same UVs without the shrinking. And now you can just preview both of those using that drop down. Right, so I'm gonna go to my perspective view. We've got our UVs, actually both of the UV channels. So the first one we're gonna use for the world position offset, because we need those UV islands to be tiny when we're gonna run noise through it. And the second one will be for any texturing that we're gonna do. So the last bit is just a Unreal Engine scale or game engine scale. So I'm gonna use a transform. In here, I'm gonna multiply it by 50. I think Side Effects recommends 100, but I like to go halfway, which is 50. I don't know, it just works better for me that way. And it's just a habit because I'm mostly exporting my meshes with a scale of 50 rather than 100. I find that sometimes 100 is a little bit too much, so I just like to go with 50, but it's a personal preference. So we've got game engine scale next. You might as well just add some normals. I'm gonna put 180 and I'm gonna use soft normals from labs as well. You can use any of those nodes. And the last bit will be just out, oops, not output, it will be null. And that's our export node. I'm gonna select this and you can go to File, Export, FBX. You can export it to your location and import it in the game engine. So the main idea would be in the game engine to create a material with a bunch of functionality there, especially with the world position offset, because it's going to allow us to form that spherical shield nicely, and the vertex color is going to allow us to have really nice highlights for that grid, hexagonal grid. Right, so I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope it's going to help you to create your own patterns rather than going with the hexagonal shape. You can maybe try triangles, but now the funny thing about the Houdini is that you can go to sphere, for example, tweak the resolution and export it into game engine without changing any other nodes. Let's see if the divide works. So I'm just gonna disable it. You could go with triangles if you want to. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this one. And if you'd like to learn more, you can just jump onto my Patreon and continue this in the game engine. All right, thank you so much.